All right, let's dive right in. Today we're unpacking a story that has all the makings of a tech thriller, a billion-dollar project that went up in smoke, a public failure, and a secret blueprint that suggests this was all part of the plan from day one. We're talking about the real story behind Tesla's AI chips, from the legendary Dojo supercomputer to something called the Swarm.
So picture this. It's August 2025, and this message drops. The tech world just explodes. It sounded like a total admission of defeat. Dojo, Tesla's moonshot supercomputer project, was dead. And just like that, the story was written. Tesla shot for the stars and missed, big time.
But here's the thing. Was it really a failure? Or what if shutting down Dojo wasn't the end of the story, but the planned final chapter of one of the boldest hardware experiments ever? That's the question we're digging into.
To get the real answer, we can't start in 2025. Nope. We have to rewind the clock, go all the way back to 2019, to a patent. Because this document, it turns out, was the master plan for everything Tesla was about to do in AI hardware long before a single Dojo chip even existed.
At the heart of this entire plan is a really clever idea called configurable bias. Now, in plain English, it's basically a way for a chip to be super flexible. It can change how precise its calculations are on the fly. You know, it's like using a tiny screwdriver for a tiny screw and a huge wrench for a huge bolt, instead of trying to use a sledgehammer for everything. It's the secret to getting insane performance without wasting a ton of power.
And this is where you can see just how clever the engineering was. Take a look at these numbers. You'd expect them to be, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? But they're not. They're these weird, non-consecutive values, and that's not a mistake, it's genius. By picking these exact values, their engineers could cover a massive range of numbers using really efficient, low-precision data. It's just incredibly smart.
And here's how they put that brilliant idea to work. It's a three-step pipeline. First, data comes in using just 8 bits, which is super efficient for memory. Then, the chip does its math using a ridiculously high 21 bits of precision, so no detail gets lost. And finally, it spits out the answer in a standard 16-bit format that everything else can understand. It's the best of all worlds: efficient, precise, and compatible.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, where does Dojo fit into all this? Well, here's the big twist. Dojo was never meant to be the final product. It was the lab. It was a giant real-world testbed built for one reason: to see if the wild ideas from that 2019 patent could actually work at an insane scale. And we know this for sure because the proof is right there in the patent. Years before anyone saw Dojo, Tesla described its core architecture word for word, a mesh-like network of processors. They were literally describing Dojo.
And then, fast forward to 2021, and what do they unveil? The D1 chip, the heart of Dojo. It was that patent made real, the living, breathing, silicon version of that mesh network idea, built to be pushed to its absolute limits so they could learn from it.
So, after running the massive Dojo experiment and learning everything they could, Tesla was ready for the final act. They were ready to build what they had been planning all along. This wasn't just an evolution, it was a totally new way of thinking about computing. This was the AI6 Swarm.
And there you have it, straight from the horse's mouth. Elon Musk himself basically said, look, Dojo isn't dead, it's DNA, it's soul, it lives on inside AI6. The ultimate goal wasn't one giant clunky supercomputer, it was a swarm of smaller, faster, more efficient chips all working together.
And this chart really shows you why that shift is such a game changer. The old way, the monolithic chip, it's like building one enormous, complex skyscraper. It's a nightmare to build, and if one little thing goes wrong, the whole project is in trouble. The Swarm, on the other hand, is like building with Legos. Need more power? Just snap on more bricks. They're easy to make, way more reliable, and because the work is spread out, they run cool.
Okay, that all sounds great, but there's a catch. A huge one, actually. This is the fundamental problem that engineers have been trying to solve for decades. How in the world do you get hundreds or even thousands of tiny processors to coordinate so perfectly that they act like one single intelligent mind?
Well, it turns out Tesla had an answer for that too. And, surprise, surprise, it was also in their patents. They came up with this incredibly elegant three-part solution, 3 pillars of coherence that they built right into the hardware itself.
Pillar number 1 is called temporal coherence. Think of it like a perfectly synchronized dance crew. There's a master clock built directly into the hardware that makes every single chip operate on the exact same beat, down to the nanosecond.
There's no slow software trying to keep everyone in sync. They are physically locked together in time.
The second pillar is computational coherence, and this is where things get a little meta. To figure out the best way to split up a huge AI problem, they use another AI. It's an AI called a graph partitioner, whose only job is to learn the most efficient way to chop up a task and hand out the pieces to the swarm. It's literally AI managing AI. And the third pillar, memory coherence, is what ties it all together. There's a piece of hardware that acts like a master traffic cop for all the data. It guarantees that every chip in the swarm is looking at the exact same information at the exact same time. So to all the little chips, it doesn't feel like they're part of a distributed system. It feels like they're all part of one single giant brain.
So when you put those three pillars together with that original 2019 blueprint, the true story of Dojo becomes crystal clear. It wasn't a failure. It couldn't have been. It was the essential middle step in a long, carefully planned evolution.
And you can literally trace the family tree right here. The configurable bias idea we talked about, it grew up to become block quantization in the AI6. The need for that super high precision math, it evolved into specialized hardware for AI training. Every core concept from the blueprint made it into the final product, just in a more advanced form.
And the timeline just seals the deal. It's a deliberate, multi-year strategy. 2019, they write down the recipe. 2021, they build a massive test kitchen called Dojo. 2025, they launch the final product, the AI6 Swarm. Blueprint, experiment, integration. It was a plan all along.
So, let's put it to rest. Dojo didn't die, it graduated. It was an incredibly successful research project that did exactly what it was supposed to do. It gave Tesla the data and the proof they needed to build their real ultimate weapon, the AI6 Swarm.
And the payoff for this grand plan is just huge. Economically, they only need to design and build one chip for everything, from training massive models to running them in a car. Technically, the hardware is so flexible that software can tell it what to become for any given job. And strategically, that means you can innovate and improve at a speed that's almost impossible to compete with. Which leaves us with one final, pretty mind-bending thought. For decades, the whole game in computing has been about building a single chip that's bigger, better, and faster. But maybe, just maybe, Tesla's story is showing us a different path. Maybe the future isn't about the brute force of one giant brain, but the collective intelligence of a perfectly coordinated swarm.